My stepson ordered me to bow to his father for coming back. I emptied the accounts, closed the cards, and drove him to his dad along with the unpaid bills. His victory turned into a lesson. Don't forget to subscribe and share your experiences below. Let's get started. Lucas stood in the doorway like a judge. Arms folded, eyes hard. 1 foot inside the living room, 1 foot in the hallway. That threshold, that line between rooms, might as well have been a courtroom floor. He was 17, but in that moment he looked older. Or maybe just colder. That kind of cold doesn't come from age. It comes from a decision made too early and too firmly. He said, "If you want to stay part of this family, you need to apologize to my real dad for taking his place." My hearing didn't fail. My mind didn't twist the words. He said them like a sentence passed. Like I'd been caught impersonating someone more noble, more deserving. Someone with matching blood. I didn't answer right away. My hands were covered in grease. I'd been outside fixing a broken hinge on the gate. I had a rag over one shoulder, sweat dripping from my temple, boots still caked in dried grass. The house was quiet, unusually so. Jenny must have been upstairs. Or maybe she heard and chose not to come down. Lucas stood like a bouncer, like a boy with muscle backing him up now, with his real dad just a phone call away. He waited, not for a fight but for my submission. He was still a kid when I met Jenny. 9 years old, skinny, missing teeth, scared of thunder. Dave, the biological father, had already packed up and gone by then. Walked out like he was taking a trash bag to the curb. No court battle. No custody tug-of-war. Just a void where a father used to be. He didn't call. Didn't write. No birthday cards. No apologies. Jenny tried to explain it away. Said he had a lot going on. Said he was confused. That's how she always framed things. As if confusion could justify abandonment. I didn't just step in. Carried them. Moved us into this house. Paid every bill. Signed for every loan. I worked weekends to cover private school when Jenny said Lucas was struggling in public. I was the one who sat beside him through algebra meltdowns and science fairs. I was the one who clapped the loudest when he played second string in basketball, when no one else even came to watch. And I never asked for a trophy. But I guess I assumed there would be something at the end of the tunnel. Gratitude, maybe, or quiet loyalty. Not love. I knew better than to expect that. But respect. The bare minimum. That was before Dave came back. Started small. A message on social media. A "Hey bud," and a photo of a dog Lucas didn't recognize. Then a package, sneakers, brand new, still in the box. Size 11. Lucas wore them the next day like they were relics. Jenny didn't tell me at first. I overheard it. Lucas on the phone, voice low, excited. Laughing. Giddy. I hadn't heard him laugh like that in years. Not with me. Not with Jenny. But with Dave, the man who left. Next came the visit. Graduation was coming up, and Dave showed up 3 days before. Not with warning. Not with humility. Just strolled into the driveway with a rented car and a fake grin. Sunglasses pushed back on his head like he was here for a photo shoot. Lucas ran to him. Arms wide. No hesitation. No questions. They talked on the porch for hours. Lucas kept looking over at me like I should come out, like I should join them. But I couldn't. My hands were shaking. Not from rage, that would have been easier. From grief. From the kind of grief that has no funeral, because the loss is still alive and laughing in your front yard. Dave had stories. Always did. Places he'd been. People he knew. He brought pictures on his phone, selfies in front of beaches, concerts, motorcycles. Flash and charm. Smoke and mirrors. Lucas fell for it like a child believing in magic. And I guess that's what it was, a kind of spell. The kind only a father can cast when he's been absent long enough to become a myth. From that day, things changed. Lucas started calling him Dad again. Not quietly, not shyly. Loud. Proud. Like he was reclaiming something that had been stolen. And me? I became him. Ask him. Tell him. Does he know? One night, Lucas asked Jenny if Dave could come to the graduation dinner. Jenny looked at me like a bomb had been dropped. I waited for her to say no. To protect the man who raised her son when no one else would. But she didn't. She smiled, tight-lipped, said we'd make room. I didn't eat that night. I sat at the end of the table while Dave held court, laughing too loud, pouring wine he didn't buy, shaking hands with family like he belonged. Lucas hung on every word, and I watched the years peel away from his face, watched him become 9 again, needing a dad, any dad, even a ghost. That was 3 nights ago. Now Lucas stood before me, delivering his verdict. If you want to stay part of this family, you need to apologize to my real dad for taking his place. The words repeated in my skull like a bell, louder each time. I saw the driveway behind him, the gravel I poured by hand, the garage I rewired, the porch I sanded, the living room I repainted after Lucas broke the wall with a soccer ball. My work, my money, my time. And now I needed permission to remain. I finally spoke. Your real dad left when you were 9. Lucas didn't blink. And you took his place. Without asking. I stared at him. There it was. The truth. Not whispered. Not spat in anger. Just spoken plain and sharp. Without asking. He said it like a trespass. Like I broke into a role that was never mine. All these years, I thought I was building something. A life. A bond. A family. But to him, I was just squatting in someone else's seat. Jenny came downstairs then. She must have heard. But she didn't speak. She stood behind the railing, one hand on the post, looking down at us like she wasn't part of this at all. Her silence said everything. No defense. No correction. No Lucas, apologize. Just eyes that wouldn't meet mine. I walked past Lucas, brushed his shoulder. He didn't move. I went out to the back patio, sat on the edge of the step, and stared at the lawn. The sprinkler clicked. The sun was setting. Golden light bled across the fence I built with my own hands. The gate creaked behind me. I thought it might be Jenny, or maybe, foolishly, Lucas coming to say he didn't mean it. But no one came. Just the sound of footsteps returning inside. That night I didn't eat. I didn't speak. I lay in bed beside Jenny, stiff as a corpse, while she breathed evenly, as if nothing had happened. But something had. The floorboards had shifted. The house I built had tilted, and I was slipping toward the edge. The next morning, Lucas didn't come downstairs for breakfast. Not that I expected him to. Jenny moved around the kitchen in silence, pouring coffee, rinsing dishes that didn't need cleaning, pretending the air wasn't soaked with rot. I sat at the table, unread newspaper open in front of me, one hand wrapped around a mug that had long gone cold. I didn't look at her. Couldn't. Because if I did, I'd ask the question neither of us was ready to answer. Do you agree with him? Instead, I stared past her, at the fridge covered in magnets and photos. Lucas at 12, grinning with braces. Lucas holding his learner's permit, the day I stood in line with him at the DMV for 3 hours. Lucas on the football field, wearing cleats I paid for, uniform washed and folded by my hands. A museum of a childhood I had funded, protected, endured. And now all it meant to him was, you just pay. That afternoon, the mail came. College prep invoices, car insurance renewal, utility bills. I laid them all out on the dining table like autopsy reports. The cost of raising someone else's child, itemized. I ran my finger across the rows of numbers, tallying every dollar, every cent. Not just this year. Every year. 8 years of sacrifice printed in ink. I stared at the total and didn't feel pride. Only fatigue. Only the hollow realization that love given without respect becomes debt. And eventually someone sends a collector. That evening Lucas finally emerged. Freshly showered, headphones around his neck, phone in hand. He didn't speak. Just walked past me to the fridge, grabbed a drink, and sat at the counter like I wasn't there. Like he hadn't torn the floor out from under me the night before. Cleared my throat. Not because I wanted to speak. I didn't. But because I wanted to be seen. He looked up. Barely. Just enough to acknowledge me. You've got a college tour this weekend, I said. He shrugged. Yeah. Dave's taking me. The words landed like a slap. Not just for what he said, but for how casually he said it. Like it was normal. Like the man who vanished for nearly a decade was now the trusted guide to his future. I stared at him. Is he also paying for your applications? Your travel? The hotel? Lucas rolled his eyes. Why do you care? You'll cover it. You always do. And there it was. The truth, naked and shameless. I wasn't family. I wasn't a father. I was a wallet with feet. He stood to leave, but I stopped him with one sentence. You need to apologize. He turned, brow furrowed. For what? For what you said. For what you made me feel. For using me. For rewriting the past like I never mattered. He scoffed. I didn't rewrite anything. I just stopped pretending. I rose from my chair, slowly. The air felt thick. You live in this house, I said. You eat my food. Drive a car I paid for. Sleep under a roof I maintain. I've been paying your way since you were a boy. And all this time I thought I was doing it for a son. Not a tenant. He shrugged. No one asked you to do all that. You're right, I said, voice colder now. No one did. I volunteered. And now I'm done. He looked confused. Nervous. Like maybe he'd gone too far. But his pride wouldn't let him walk it back. Are you threatening me? No, I said. I'm freeing you. He laughed. From what? From me. He didn't understand. Not yet. But I had already made the decision. That night, while Jenny slept beside me like the house wasn't falling apart, I slipped out of bed and sat at the desk in my office. I opened every account. Bank, insurance, school, utilities, subscriptions. One by one, I closed them. Canceled his car insurance. Withdrew from the joint credit card. Revoked access to the college fund I had built brick by brick over 8 years of side work and sleepless nights. Even the streaming services, gone. Every confirmed cancellation felt like a match thrown into a dry field. I expected to feel guilt. I didn't. Only clarity. By the time the sun rose, Lucas was no longer my financial responsibility. He still hadn't apologized. Still hadn't looked me in the eye since calling me a thief in my own house. So I took it one step further. I walked into the kitchen at 7 a.m. He sat at the island, cereal in hand, scrolling his phone. Jenny stood by the stove. She turned, saw my face, and stopped. I dropped a manila folder onto the counter with a loud thud. Lucas flinched. What's this? He asked. I didn't answer him. I looked at Jenny. Everything I've paid for in the last 2 years. Car, insurance, school, college prep, clothes, even the groceries. Jenny opened the folder, hands trembling. Where are you going with this? She asked, already fearing the answer. I looked at Lucas, not with rage, not even disappointment, just finality. You're moving out. His mouth opened, then closed, like a fish out of water. What? You're going to live with your real dad, the one you respect, the one you want me to apologize to. He can take it from here. Jenny gasped. You can't. I turned to her. I can. And I am. I've done my part. I've spent years proving myself to a boy who never gave me a chance. I paid for a future he never planned to share with me. It ends now. Lucas stood. You're serious? Dead serious. But he's not even, he doesn't have a place for me. He rents a room. He's got roommates. Not my problem. I don't even know if he can. Not my problem. He looked to Jenny. Say something. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her silence said everything it had said for years. I won't fight for you. That night, I drove him to Dave's last known address. An apartment complex with faded paint and overgrown hedges. A place that looked tired, like the man who lived there. Lucas sat in the passenger seat, arms crossed, eyes wide. You're actually doing this? I didn't reply. Parked. Got out. Dropped the folder on the front step. This has everything you need, I said. Insurance lapses, school costs, outstanding bills. Give it to your real dad. Lucas stood there, stunned. You can't just leave me here. I looked at him, not with hate, not even pain, just truth. You made your choice. Now live with it. He didn't follow me back to the car. I didn't look back. I drove home alone. The silence was the loudest it had ever been. When I walked in, Jenny was sitting at the table, red-eyed, hands folded in her lap. "Where is he?" she asked. "With his father," I said. "You really did it." "Yes." She stood. "He's a child." "No," I said. "He's a man now. He made a man's decision. And now he can face a man's reality." I poured myself a drink, sat down. She didn't join me. She went upstairs. I didn't follow. That night I slept better than I had in years. No one called. No one apologized. The house was quiet. But the peace was loud. 1 week passed. Not a word from Lucas. Not a single text from Jenny. The house changed. It shrank. Not in size but in temperature. Cold in the mornings. Colder in the evenings. I'd come home from work and find the lights off. The silence untouched. Jenny stopped cooking. She barely touched her wine. She drifted through the rooms like a shadow, always looking toward the front door like she expected him to walk in and say he'd made a mistake. But he didn't, and I didn't ask. Then, one evening, the phone rang. It was Jenny's number, but the voice on the other end was thin, cracking. "He's gone," she whispered. She didn't mean Lucas. Dave had left again. Not a goodbye, not even a text. Just gone. Rent unpaid. Phone off. His roommate said he packed up at 3 a.m. and never looked back. Couldn't handle the weight, she said. Couldn't handle the bills. The folder. The car that needed gas. The boy who thought dad meant rescue without labor. All of it too much. She was crying. Quietly, like she didn't want me to hear how broken she sounded. But I heard it. Every shattered breath. And me? I felt nothing. Not joy. Not triumph. Just confirmation. Dave didn't return to be a father. He returned for applause. Lucas hadn't been reclaimed. He'd been seduced by charm, by blood, by the illusion of a man who wore dad like a borrowed jacket and tossed it the moment it got heavy. Jenny asked me what to do. Her voice trembled. "I don't know where he is," she said. "Lucas doesn't either. He left. Just vanished." I didn't reply. She waited. And when she realized I had no answer, she hung up. 3 days later, there was a knock at the door. I knew who it was before I opened it. Lucas. He didn't look like himself. His face was sunken. Eyes swollen. He hadn't shaved. Clothes hung from him like they belonged to someone else. He stood on the porch in the same sneakers Dave gave him, now scuffed and dirty, like the shine had worn off the lie. He didn't speak right away, just stood there, breathing heavy, like walking here had taken everything he had left. When he finally spoke, his voice was thin. "I was wrong." 3 words. Late, but clear. I didn't move, didn't invite him in. I stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, the other in my pocket. He stepped forward. "I didn't know it would be like this. I thought." He swallowed. Couldn't finish the sentence. I waited. He looked down, shoes shifting on the doormat. "He said he'd help, that he had savings." He said. His voice cracked. I thought he changed. There it was. The core of it. The thing I had seen coming long before he had. People don't change. Not in the ways that matter. Especially not the ones who leave without looking back. Lucas was still speaking. Or maybe just spilling. Desperation poured from him like water from a split pipe. He told me I deserved better. That you were just filling space. That you tried to replace him. I looked at him then. Really looked. Not as a boy, but as a man. A man broken by the very thing he chose. He kept going. But he didn't pay anything. Not one bill. He didn't even help me sign up for classes. Said it was too much paperwork. He got mad when I asked about the insurance. Then he just left. He blinked fast, trying to stop the tears. I had to sell the car. Just to pay rent. Still wasn't enough. I haven't eaten in 2 days. I didn't know what else to do. He looked up. So I came back. There it was. The return. The prodigal son, hollowed out and humiliated. But this wasn't about repentance. It was about survival. He didn't come back because he saw me. He came back because there was no one else left. He reached for me. Physically, emotionally. His hand trembling like it wanted to rest on my shoulder, like he needed something solid to hold. "I'm sorry," he said. "Please, I need help." But I didn't move, because in that moment all I saw was the equation. 8 years of sacrifice, 1 week of abandonment, 3 days of struggle, and now he was back. Not for love, but for the life I had built. I looked him in the eye and said, "No." His face twisted, like he hadn't considered the possibility of rejection. Like coming back meant the story would end in redemption. "Please," he said, "just let me stay a few days, just until I find a job. I'll pay you back, I swear." I didn't blink. "You said I wasn't your father." He winced. "You said I stole your real dad's place, that I owed him an apology. Do you remember that?" He nodded slowly, shame blooming like blood in water. "I didn't mean it," he said. "I was angry, confused. I was. You were clear." Silence. He stepped closer, barely a foot between us now. And then, like something broke, he dropped to his knees, right there, on the porch, in the cold. "Please," he whispered. "I don't have anyone else." Tears streamed down his face. His arms wrapped around my leg. "I'll do anything. I'll get a job. I'll sleep on the floor. I'll cook, clean. Just don't shut the door." But I had to, because this wasn't about forgiveness. It was about truth. And the truth was, this wasn't love. This was desperation. A drowning man grabbing the last branch on the shore. Not because he values the tree, but because he fears the water. I stared down at him, and I spoke the sentence I had waited 8 years to say. "Love without respect is slavery." He froze. I pulled my leg free. "And I will never be a slave again." I stepped back, closed the door, locked it. On the other side, I heard nothing. No screams, no curses, no pounding fists, just silence. Maybe he stayed there. Maybe he didn't. I didn't check. That night, Jenny came home. She saw the tracks his knees left on the porch. Saw the front mat soaked from where he'd knelt and cried. She didn't speak. She didn't ask. She just walked upstairs. And I let her, because we both knew. If he came back for love, he'd have come long before the bills did. A week passed. 7 sunrises. 7 nights. 7 days of silence thick enough to drown in. Jenny barely spoke to me. She moved like a woman half awake, limbs mechanical, eyes dull. She didn't ask about Lucas. Didn't bring up the porch, the kneeling, the crying. Maybe she thought ignoring it would rewind the clock. Or maybe she was waiting for me to change my mind, to crack open the door again. But I didn't, because something in me had sealed. Permanently, I went about my days like nothing had happened. Work, groceries, mowing the lawn, taking out the trash. The rituals of a man reclaiming his life. Relearning silence, but this time on his own terms. Then, on the 8th day, it happened. A knock. Not frantic. Not desperate. Just 3 sharp taps. Precise. Measured. Like someone rehearsed them. I opened the door. It was Lucas. He looked different. Cleaner. Straighter. His face was shaved, hair combed back. Shirt tucked in. The same shoes. Still worn, still fraying at the seams, but laced now. Tied tight. He stood tall. No slouch. No tears. He looked me in the eye and said, "I was wrong." I waited. He didn't kneel. Didn't cry. He just stood there. "I was wrong," he repeated. "And I know it doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't make up for what I said, or how I treated you. I just came to say it." He looked down, then back up. "You were the one who stayed. I see that now. Too late. But I see it." I didn't interrupt. I thought blood mattered more than presence. That being related made someone a father. But it doesn't. Anyone can be a dad for a weekend. You were one every day. You didn't just step in, you stayed in. His voice didn't shake. But his hands did. Slight tremors. like the weight of truth was still unfamiliar to him. "I don't expect anything from you," he said. "Not a place to stay, not money. I just wanted you to hear me say it, because I needed to." And then he nodded. "Thank you for everything, even if I didn't deserve it." He turned to leave, didn't beg, didn't wait for permission. Just walked down the steps like a man who knew he had burned the bridge behind him but still needed to walk the road ahead. I watched him go, not with pride, not with forgiveness, but with something simpler. Finality. He had said the words. But regret isn't repayment. You can't undrink poison. You can't rebuild a house with a whisper. I shut the door, not in anger, in peace, because this time it was finished. Not a pause, not a break. The end. That night, I sat on the porch with a drink in my hand, the autumn air cold against my skin. The wind carried the smell of pine and the echo of memories I no longer wished to replay. 8 years. 8 years of cutting wood and holding back. Of swallowing pride and building futures for people who saw me as furniture, useful, silent, replaceable. Lucas's apology hadn't changed anything. Because apologies are not time machines. They do not refund years. They do not erase silence. They do not resurrect respect. I gave everything, and in the end they left. Not once, but twice. Jenny with her silence. Lucas with his blood. Dave with his absence. Each one took a piece, and I let them, until now. Now there was nothing left to take. And for the first time I was okay with that. Because this house, this porch, this silence, it belonged to me again. Not shared, not borrowed. Mine. A week later Jenny moved out. No speech, no tears, just boxes, bags, and a long hollow look that said more than any goodbye. She knew I wouldn't stop her. She knew the version of me who begged to be seen was dead and buried. And I let her go. Because a woman who won't defend you against her child will never stand beside you in the storms. She left me like she had arrived, softly, politely, without promises. And I stayed, alone, but not lonely, because I had finally learned something men like me take too long to learn. Love is not unconditional. Not if it kills you. There's a lie we tell men. That sacrifice is its own reward. That suffering proves love. That if you give enough, long enough, patiently enough, they'll see you. They'll value you. They'll choose you. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they leave. Sometimes they spit in your face while eating from your hand. And if you don't draw a line, they'll eat you alive and still blame you for not tasting sweet enough. I drew the line, and now here I sit. No family photos on the walls. No footsteps overhead. No laughter down the hall. But also no disrespect. No begging. No erosion of self. Just peace. Not the kind you find. The kind you take back. And now I ask you, was I cruel? Was I wrong to shut the door, to choose myself over a family that only wanted my labor, not my love? Or was this the only way left to teach them that father is not a title you inherit, it's one you earn, and that respect is the price of admission? So tell me, would you have opened the door? Or would you have locked it, like I did, and finally walked away?